Okay. So on Sunday morning, we'll have a Q&A session before everybody leave. Okay, so about 8:15. Yeah. So if you have any question you want to ask, you can write it down and deposit it there in the box. Yeah. And there are papers there also. Okay, so we have already covered the 4 Satipatthana objects. Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma. Body, feeling, consciousness, and the Dhammas. So as we said, these 4 objects, you can boil it down to just Nama Rupa Dhamma, mental physical nature. And you note these objects in terms of their sabbhava, their natural characteristic, their nature. So the elements, kaya, the 4 elements. So you note nature, hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness, heat, cold, the support, pressure, tightness, cohesion, flowing, and so on. Vedana, feeling, is simply the experience of pleasantness, unpleasantness, or neutralness. Chitta, nature of knowing. Then Dhamma, various mental physical nature. Now, so there are 4 objects. So therefore, there's 4 anupassana. So kaya anupassana, vedana anupassana, chitta anupassana, and dhamma anupassana. So continuous noting of body, of feeling, or consciousness, or dhamma. So for vipassana yogis, so you begin your practice with kaya anupassana, noting of the body. You use the body, noting of the body as a foundation in order to develop mindfulness and the momentary concentration, kanika samadhi. So because vipassana yogi, you proceed straight into development of insight. But without mindfulness, without momentary concentration, insight cannot develop. So first, therefore, you need to develop this mindfulness and momentary concentration. And because you have totally zero, you start with totally zero samadhi, and very little mindfulness. Hopefully there's a bit at least. So first you have to start off by developing. So get the mind steady, sharp, precise. And then only you can develop insight. Also the mind needs to be settled. So you cannot avoid that. So you use the noting of the body as a foundation to develop the mind, the noting mind, the strength of the noting mind, its precision, its clarity, its continuity. For samatha yogis, when they switch to vipassana meditation, you see samatha yogis, they begin by first developing the samatha jhanas. They don't like us, we are all heroes, heroine. We straight jump into development of insight. So for samatha yogis, they don't straight away jump into development of insight. They first develop the samatha jhanas. So then after they have developed the jhanas. Then they switch to development of vipassana. To do so, they need to withdraw from the jhanas. Okay, and then note the mental physical nature. Okay, so so that's how they practice. Okay, now so when they switch to vipassana, to develop vipassana, because they have already achieved the samatha jhana. Okay? So when they withdraw from it, the mind is still very steady, very clear, peaceful, sharp, precise. Okay? So for them, when they begin the development of vipassana, they can proceed straight to cittanupassana or dhammanupassana. Okay? So the actual method of samatha yanika, the samatha yana, is you withdraw from jhana and then you turn your attention to note the mental states. Okay, that's within the jhana. Okay, so that means immediately you come out, you turn your mind back to the jhana and note the mental physical nature within the jhana. Okay, and discern their nature of impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay. So because their mind is so sharp, precise, they can pick up even a very subtle mental nature. They can see all the jhana factors arising, disappearing, the jhana citta arising, disappearing very clearly, the heart base arising, disappearing. So from there they can develop insight, impermanent, suffering, non-self. So actually this is more of dhammanupassana. Right? So noting the mental physical nature within the jhana. So for them they can start dhammanupassana or even cittanupassana if they want. Okay. But for vipassana yogi, you don't start with noting all these very subtle objects. You start with a gross object, the body. Okay. So cittanupassana, dhammanupassana, you only practice when the sati samadhi has been sufficiently developed and there's enough clarity of mind, and the noting mind has the strength of continuity. He is able to proceed continuously, noting with strength, with clarity, with precision. Then only you are ready to do cittanupassana or dhammanupassana. So it's not a practice for beginners. Then Vedana Nupassana, Vedana you note throughout your practice. Okay, whenever there's prominent Vedana arise, it must be noted. Otherwise, as we explained the other day, it will throw you out of your practice. Okay, very pleasant feeling arise, you do not note, then the delight, the attachment, the desire will arise. Okay? And then you lose the mindfulness. Okay? Unpleasant feeling arise, you don't know, dosa arise. Again, thrown out of the practice. Okay? Neutral feeling arise, you don't know, delusion may arise. Okay? So you have to note as and when Vedana is prominent. Okay? So in the beginning it's mostly the gross bodily pain. So occasionally there's also bodily comfort. Occasionally. So and there's the mental pleasure or displeasure. And that may arise also when you are experiencing a pleasant or unpleasant object. Okay, so this feeling must be noted. Okay, so that the mind remains steady, equanimous, with neutral feeling. Okay. As your practice develop, so you also need to watch out for the more subtle, more spiritual feeling that may arise, the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling that may arise connected with the development of the practice, development of samadhi, development of insight. Okay? So when you develop samadhi, the mind is peaceful, relaxed, calm. So sometimes pleasant feeling may arise, especially if there's piti. So yeah, then you need to note. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in delighting. Okay, so the development of insight also will give rise to certain feelings. Like samasana jnana, the third insight. Okay, the knowledge of comprehension. Okay, where you begin to discern the nature of impermanent suffering, non-self, in a gross way. Okay, so at that stage of insight, okay, and it's very clear, you can feel all kind of dukkha vedana, especially in the body. Okay, so a lot of pain here, pain there, itchiness here, itchiness there, a crawling sensation, and so on. Okay, so you have to note that. Okay, and there's udayabhaya jnana. Very pleasant feeling can arise because of very extraordinary experience in this stage of insight. Okay, may not arise to everybody. Okay, but usually they can arise. Okay, so at that time you really have to note, because it is very, very pleasant. Okay, as the Buddha described udayabhaya jnana as amanusi rati hoti. It's a delight that transcends that of a human. It's a non-human delight. Okay, what it means is it's a divine delight. So you feel so pleasurable at that time. It's like you're in the celestial world. Okay? So it's like a delight of the deva. So you don't note that pleasant feeling, you think you're in nibbana already. You think you already attained nibbana, then you give up your practice, you stop your practice. I'm done, finish. Done is what needs to be done. So that's why at that time the teacher have to knock the yogi, knock senses into the yogi. Okay? You gotta note the pleasant feeling. You note it, really note it. Then you see it also disappear. Okay? So it disappear, that means it's conditioned, that means impermanent, suffering, non-self. It's not the real thing yet. Okay? Okay? And then there's the dukkha jnana. So after bhanga jnana, there's bhaya jnana, knowledge of fearfulness, adinava jnana, knowledge of the danger, misery. Okay? Nibbida jnana, knowledge of how to say, nibbida, disenchantment, okay? Weariness. Okay? Then after that, adinava, nibbida, then munchintu kamnyata jnana. Okay? Knowledge of desire for deliverance. Okay? So here, this series of insight and patisankha jnana. Okay? So the knowledge into dukkha, insight into dukkha become very, very clear in this stage. You see the fearfulness, you see the miserableness, the danger. Okay? You see until you become really weary, okay? Disenchanted. It's like you break a spell. Okay? Because dukkha is so clear. Before that, you still think, oh, five aggregates very nice. Seeing is wonderful, hearing is wonderful, smelling, tasting, touching, even all the thinking is wonderful. Okay, under a spell, as attachment, delight in it. Okay, so the earlier insight you still delight because the insight is not clear yet. Okay, but now you really see dukkha very, very clearly. Oppressive nature, the never-ending arising, disappearing, breaking up. It's like existence being ripped apart again and again and again, into pieces. So you see, discern very clearly nature of dukkha. You see the fearfulness in it, the danger in it, the miserableness, and so on. See until you break the spell. You're no longer enchanted by it. It's like you wake up. This is dukkha. And so oppressive until you want to be free from it. This is really when it becomes meaningful, when you say idame punya nibbana sapacaya hotu. You really wish for nibbana, wish to be free from this suffering. Before that, you idame punya nibbana sa. Go home, you forget. You chant also, your mind everywhere. Now, muncin tu kam niatanya, you really wish to be free, and desire for liberation from this dukkha, because it's so oppressive. Okay. Then the next one is muncin, not muncin, the patisankanyana, knowledge of reobservation. Because to be free, you have to double down on your effort to note more clearly, see more clearly nature, impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay, to mature the knowledge. Okay, you can stop meditating actually to be free. That is no longer there because you stop noting. Okay, but the moment you sit down, note again, or come back again. Okay, so the only way out of this is to go through. So you have to double down and note more precisely, more sharply, more clearly. Okay, knowledge of reobservation. So the insight into dukkha, deeper, become mature. So as it becomes deeper, more mature, the detachment becomes stronger and stronger. The equanimity becomes stronger and stronger, until finally you come to sankarupekanyana, knowledge of equanimity towards the sankhara, the formation. So the mind discern dukkha, still discern dukkha, in fact more clearly, but become totally equanimous, unshaken by it. Okay. So during that stages of dukkha jnana, a lot of dukkha vedana will arise. So noting mind needs to be very, very strong. To note. So vedana arises, you need to note. Okay. Then sankarupeka jnana, it becomes more neutral, because strong equanimity. Okay. So all this vedana that arise with development of the practice also need to be noted. Okay. So vedana nupassana, you practice them throughout your practice. As and when prominent vedana arise, they must be noted to stay on track of the practice. Okay, so there's this 4 objects. And the instruction the Buddha gave, what to do with these 4 objects. It says kaye kaya nupasi viharati. So anupasi viharati. Okay? So which means to dwell in a state of continuous noting. Okay? So viharati means to dwell. Okay? Vihara. Vihara actually means a dwelling. Okay? So viharati means to dwell. Okay? So if you are dwelling in a place, it means that you stay put in that place continuously. Right? That means you are not moving about to go here, go there. So you stay put there. Okay? So you are also not just visiting. You visit, you just stay a bit, then you leave. Okay? You don't stay put. But you dwell means you stay put and remain in that place continuously. Okay? So the instruction to dwell in continuous noting. Okay? So this means you must train the mind to remain in the state of continuous noting of the object for extended period of time. Okay? So as we said, in a retreat, noting, the work of meditation, noting goes on continuously. Okay? From the moment you wake up in the morning until you fall asleep at night. Okay? So you must dwell in this continuous noting. Okay? So you sit during sitting meditation, you sit for an hour. During that 1 hour, the mind must continuously dwell in the state of noting. Noting rising, falling, sitting, touching, secondary object, note, disappear, go back to primary object. Note continuously. There's not a moment where the mind is without noting. Okay? Similarly, walking meditation also. You walk for 1 hour, you note continuously. Lifting, pushing, placing. Standing, turning, and not continuously. Okay? So, and then all other times, meditation on daily activities. Okay? Whatever you do, whatever physical activities you are doing, so you dwell continuously noting the activity. You're stretching, not stretching, you're bending, not bending, you're turning, not turning, sitting down, not sitting, getting up, not getting up, and so on. Okay? So continuously dwell in the work of noting. Okay? So throughout each day in a retreat, you must train yourself to dwell continuously in the work of noting, not taking the mind away to dwell in other things. Okay? Like what happened just before you come for a retreat, what happened at home, or what is happening at home right now, or what is happening in the world right now. So sometimes because few more days retreat gonna finish, start planning where you're gonna go, go holiday. So your mind is dwelling on all this. That means you're not dwelling in the work of noting. Okay? So then it's not anupasi viharati. Okay? It's holiday viharati. Okay? So you must ensure mind is continuously dwelling in the work, noting the body continuously, noting feeling continuously, consciousness, dhammas. Okay? Okay. So viharati means dwelling. Then anupasi. So anupasi viharati. Okay. Now anupasi or anupasana. Okay. Anupasana is more like verbal noun. Anupasi actually means literally, it means the person who is doing anupasana. Okay, so that means must dwell as someone who is doing anupasana. Okay, but this you translate it like this, doesn't sound right in English. So we translate to English. We translate according to how we express ourselves in English. So we say dwell continuously noting. Okay. So, but anupasya, anupasana is also often translated as contemplating. So you read many translation, most of the translation, they say to contemplate, anupasana. Okay. So, however, the English word to contemplate, okay, can be misleading. Okay, if you are already experienced yogi, you know clearly what we mean when we say to contemplate. Okay, but somebody who is totally new, okay, and then they read they want to learn meditation, instead of going to a teacher to learn, I take the sutta, I read that, because they do not know Pali, so I have to read translation. Okay, so nowadays there is a view circulating around among the Buddhist community in Malaysia. You don't need to look for a teacher to learn the practice. You just read the suttas. So you follow this view, you go and read the sutta. You read translation because you do not know the Pali language. Okay? And most of the translations say contemplate. Okay? So if you read the word contemplate, okay? Then you get if you take that meaning in English, okay? It means something. To contemplate means something like to think about, something to consider something, or to reflect on something. Okay, so you check the dictionary. That's the meaning it gives. Contemplate. Okay, so if you, for example, I say, I'm contemplating. Contemplating whether to eat chicken rice or to eat fried noodle. Contemplating. Okay, we are thinking. Okay, or I'm contemplating what my father told me, the advice my father gave me yesterday. That means they are reflecting on the advice. So it involves thinking. So if you read the sutta like this and you have no teacher to explain to you, you think that is the meaning. So you must think about the body, think about the feeling, think about the consciousness, and so on. Okay. Then instead, when you practice, when you meditate, instead of directly observing experience clearly as it is in the moment, then you start thinking, thinking about the body. So thinking about your experience. Okay? So for example, say, experience of pain. Pain. Say, I don't want the pain, but the pain keep coming. This one anatta. I cannot control. Just thinking. So then after noting for some time, the pain disappears. Just now I got a lot of pain, and now no more lah. Anicca. Yes. as thinking. Okay. So you are thinking. You are thrown out of the direct experience in the moment. Okay. So you can, if you are not on the direct experience in the moment, okay, you cannot discern the true nature of the experience as it is in the moment. Okay. Then you cannot develop insight. Okay. So true insight is without thinking. Okay? It's insight. That's why we translate as insight. Right? Insight is not a literal translation of vipassana. Okay? But it does capture its nature clearly, because insight means it's intuitive. Okay? I mean, it's not intellect. It's not intellectual. It does not arise by thinking, analyzing, considering, and so on. Okay? It arises spontaneously when you keep observing, keep noting in the nature again and again. It get clearer and clearer and clearer. At some point, the understanding comes. The light bulb turn on. Ding. Then you understand. Okay? So, and besides, when you think, thinking also tends to bring in, when you think, you tend to bring in the prejudice, your personal preference about how the object should be. Okay. Then instead of seeing the object, discerning the object exactly as it is, you see it as how you think it should be. So you have expectation. Okay. So this is not helpful, okay, for development of insight. In fact, it is an obstacle to the development of insight. So if you look at the Pali word anupassana, the meaning is very clear. In fact, it's very literal. Anupassana. Okay? Anupassana, that's prefix anu, and then passana. So passana means seeing. Okay? But because this meditation is not seeing with the eyes, the physical eye, seeing with the mental eye, it's actually seeing with wisdom, with mindfulness, with wisdom. Okay? So it's kind of like discerning, actually. Okay? So, and then, so it's like actually noting, taking note clearly, precisely, with mindfulness and clarity, sati sampajana. Okay? So, and then anu means following. So it means one noting, following another, following another, following another. So essentially what it means is continuous noting. Okay? So one noting, following another, continuously, without a gap in between. Okay? So it's not you no, then stop 1 second, then no, stop 2 seconds, no, stop 1 minute, and there's a gap in between. Okay? Noting must be continuous. Okay? That's the meaning of anupassana. Okay? And only if the noting is continuous can mindfulness, the concentration, the clear knowledge develop and deepen. Okay? So Mahasi Sayadaw, he compared the development of vipassana insight to starting the fire. Okay? So not in the modern way. Modern way very easy. Take, finish, fire come. The old way, you rub, they rub the wood together. Okay, so you rub until very the friction produce heat. and the heat has to be intense enough. It's intense enough, it produces amber. Okay, so from the amber you put some kindling on it, dry grass or something, and blow, and then you catch fire, and then you get fire. Okay, so in order for the heat to be intense enough to produce the amber, you have to rub continuously. You cannot rub 1 minute, okay, tired, I take a rest. After rest, you rub some more. While you're resting, the heat cools down. So you have to keep rubbing continuously. Okay, so similarly, in our practice also, to develop insight, you have to note continuously. Okay, note every time you note with mindfulness, it's like you're rubbing on the object, rubbing. So you have to note continuously until it's intense enough. The mindfulness is intense enough. Then it form the samadhi arise. Samadhi will be like the amber. So only when it's intense enough, it form. Samadhi is established. Then when samadhi is present, then only clear knowledge can arise. So you have to keep noting. Cannot rest. Okay, you rest, you lose the momentum. Okay, and then you have to start again. Okay, as I noting, have to continue continuously throughout the day. So otherwise, sometimes morning or sit walk continuously, then lunchtime relax a bit. All mindfulness gone. Especially you see the food, so nice, then gone. Then come afternoon, you lose the momentum, then you have to start again. So you have to carry on even in the daily activities, to not continuously, relentlessly keep the momentum up. Okay? So anupassana means continuous noting, continuous discerning. Okay, and noting and discerning without thinking. Okay, without involving the intellect. Okay, noting and discerning with a mind that is completely open to the experience as it is. Okay, it means with no preconceived idea, no expectation at all, okay, of how the object should be. Okay? So without thinking, without analyzing it in any way. Okay? So just be completely open to the experience, accepting it as it is, surrendering into it, taking in the experience exactly as it is. Okay? No addition, no subtraction. Okay? The Buddha also, in the instruction, he says not just to note the body, but to note body in the body. Kaye kaya nupasi. So kaya means in the body. Kaya nupasi means you continuously note the body. So you continuously note the body in the body. So what does this mean? So this is to emphasize that when you note the noting needs to be precise. Okay, so the noting mind must reach the object precisely, reach its target precisely. Okay? So only if it's precise, will the knowledge be precise, accurate, exactly as it is. Okay? So when you note, you must be precise, not roughly. Okay, it's roughly like that. So or I think it's like that. Okay, so if you say roughly like that, then your knowledge also roughly, not precise. So noting precisely is like if you have a bowl of I want to say noodle, but maybe we say bihun. Bihun more fine. So a bowl of bihun. So and you want to pick up only one piece of bihun from among the bihun. So it's like bihun in the bihun. Okay. So you look at the bowl of bihun. Which one attracts you most? You see, that is like the most prominent object. You say, this one. Then you take the chopstick. So because bihun is fine, you cannot take the Chinese chopstick. Chinese chopstick is fat at the end. You take the Japanese chopstick, more pointed. And you point precisely there, and then you go in precisely, and then you pick up the bihun from the bihuns. So and then you leave the rest. So similarly, for example, you're noting rising. So when it's rising, the abdomen, for example, rising. So the most prominent was sensation is pushing. So, but at the same time, there are many other sensations all around. Sensation of warmness or coolness, or vibration around, or pressure at the side. So many other sensations. But the most prominent one is the pushing. So you pinpoint your noting mind exactly on the pushing. And then you just pick it up from among all the sensation. You ignore the rest. You just pick up that pushing. There's nothing body in the body. So yeah, this whole body, but among that you pick up that one. So precise. So when you note one object, attention must be precisely on the object, and only on the object. Don't be distracted to other object. So the noting mind must not be busybody, noting these, but at the same time trying to look at other object. So one noting, one object only, the most prominent object in the moment. So for example, and you're noting rising, falling. Don't at the same time go and note the pain. So you're not rising, falling, just on rising, falling. So if the pain is prominent, then you switch your entire attention to the pain and not only the pain. Forget about the rising, falling. So so don't let your attention be split. To note here, note there, note everywhere. Attention is dispersed. You end up with restlessness. So you try to do this, it's like you're trying to pick out a whole bunch of bihun. All the bihun entangled together. All the bihun entangled together. You cannot see each piece of bihun separately, clearly. And then maybe you think this is one whole very long piece of bihun. So only if you take out each one separately, clearly, then only you see it's not one piece of long bihun that go on continuously, never ending. Okay? Each one very short, have beginning, have end, and you can see clearly. Okay? Also, when you note the rising, for example, only attention only on the rising. Don't look forward into the future. The falling gonna happen. Falling gonna happen. Okay? Don't look backwards. Previously the rising was like that. Previously the falling. So you're not rising, just on the rising. Don't go back to the future. Don't go back to the past. Okay? The next, when falling occur, then the attention just on the falling. Okay? Yeah. You're noting, it's clear, you're not rising, rising, many rising. Each rising, let your attention be only on that rising. Okay, and the next rising occur, then only on that rising. And the next one, only on that. Okay? So once a new one arises, forget about the old one. Okay? So you be completely and precisely on each sensation of rising as it occur in the present. Okay? So for example, you're not pushing. So just not pushing, then another one. Precise. Okay? So only if you note like this, then will your knowledge be clear cut. Okay? Then you can tell. There's many pushing. The rising is many pushing. Okay? And each pushing is a new pushing, separate from the others. Okay? One moment is pushing, then the next moment another one. This is a new one, and not the same as the one before. It's separate. Okay? And then another one arises. This also a new one, separate from the others. Okay? Each one is a new, separate pushing. Okay? Your mind is clear. So then you realize it's not the same abdomen rising. When you first note, you think it's the same abdomen rising, right? So the same abdomen, the beginning, same in the middle, same in the end. But when your mind is precise, clear cut like this, you realize each rising is different, separate. Then you realize it's not the same abdomen rising. Okay? That's just a series of pushing, one after another. Okay? And each pushing is a different Dhamma. Okay? Similar Dhamma, but it's a different. Okay? Similar nature. In the sense that it's the wind element pushing, but it's a different wind element, different. Okay? So it's not mixed together. So in this way, your knowledge is clear, is sharp, precise. Okay? So only when the knowledge is clear and sharp in this way, okay, then the knowledge is like a very sharp knife. Okay? You can separate each of the Dhamma that's arising moment to moment clearly. Okay? So knowledge, that's why I say wisdom is like a knife, sharp, precise. It cuts through the reality. Okay? And you can see it one at a time, clearly. Okay? And when you can discern each mental, physical nature separately, clearly, okay, moment to moment, there's one, another one. Then when this is clear, then you can discern each one as a beginning and an end. Okay? Each one arising, disappearing. Okay? And when you can discern each one arising, disappearing, another one arising to disappear, and so on, then only you can discern the signs, the characteristic of anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay? Then only the insight into impermanent, suffering, non-self can develop. Okay? So you need to not learn, train the mind to note precisely. Okay? One noting, one object, one noting, one object. Pick up the nature precisely, clearly, again and again. Okay? So it's like you're picking up the bihun one after another. Gradually you learn to pick it up very fast. One, until you become like a machine. Very, very fast. So once you can pick up, you lay aside, you can see, this bihun has a beginning, has an end. You take out another beginning, and then you see they are not mixed together, they are separate. Okay? So it's like you disentangle your experience, you're clarifying your experience, okay? Slicing it up clearly. Okay? So then, the vipassana noting mind, when you note reality, it's like like when you learn to cut the cucumber. So you give a small child a cucumber, cut the cucumber. Okay? But if you ask the child to cut, you better monitor. Taking a sharp knife. But the child, you demonstrate, you cut very nicely. The child look at it, take the knife, top. All very big chunk. So then you ask maybe a teenager to cut the cucumber, and you demonstrate. So you say, okay, then you start cutting. So you cut smaller slices. So not as rough as the child, big chunk. So a teenager maybe cut into slices, but quite thick. So learning. Okay? Then you see, then you ask a chef to cut the cucumber. Chef can take his knife without looking, very fast and very, very fine. See? So when we train to note, it's like this. At first you note like a child, all big chunk, rising one, falling one, all very big. Okay? And slowly you train the precision. Then as the mind become clearer, then the one rising start to break up. Break out into maybe two, rising. Then you keep noting after a while, rising. Then after that, rising. Then more and more rising, until finally rising, very, very fine. So again, clearer and clearer, the mind more and more precise. After a while, you see, no more abdomen. It's just all this quality, formless, shapeless. Now, to be precise in the noting. So when you note, you cannot just, they say, shoot in the dark. So blindly note. Okay, you must aim precisely. Yeah, so that the noting hit the target exactly. So your noting must be like the sniper. You know sniper? Sniper, those soldiers who, they hide somewhere very far away. Then they aim the rifle at the target very, very far away, aim very precisely, and then they shoot. When they shoot, it hits precisely. Okay, just one bullet. Okay, so it must be like the sniper. And be like those, like in the movie, the soldiers sometimes they take the machine gun and then they just spray the bullet everywhere, hoping that a few of the bullets will hit the target. This just simply shoot. So your noting must be not be like this. Simply not must precise like the sniper. Okay. So as soon as the object arises, you must aim the noting mind precisely and apply it precisely on the object. Okay, and then must tune the noting mind into the object with effort. Yeah, tune into it, and then the effort to feel clearly into it. Okay, feel and discern clearly. Whatever quality, nature is clear in the moment. Okay. So every time an object arises, okay, must aim precisely, tune into it, feel precisely. Okay. So you must note like this precisely, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. So it involves a lot of effort. Okay. Now you said it's like you pick up the noodle one after another. Pick up the bihun fast, quickly, precise, pick up, precise, pick up, precise, pick up. Okay, you must learn, train until your mind is skillful. Okay? So only by noting like this, then the mental physical quality in each moment of experience can be discerned clearly, can be disentangled, and you can be seen, oh, this is separate, this one another one, this one another one. Okay. Now, to help with the precision of noting, okay? So in the beginning, you can, when the mind is still not sharp and precise, you can use the method of labeling the experience, labeling the object. Okay, so when you label the object, as we said, is the label is like pointing the noting mind precisely to the object. Okay, so you use the label to keep pointing the noting mind again and again precisely to the object that you are noting. Okay, so in the beginning, this will be very helpful. Okay, to develop the precision. Okay, so after the noting mind is well developed, is precise, then you can drop the label. Okay, and just let the mind go precisely by itself to the object. Okay. Then in the walking meditation and the meditation and daily activities, you have to slow down the movement. Okay, by slowing down, you can help the noting mind to pinpoint the sensation more accurately. Okay, because if you move quickly, too quickly, the sensation will all be in a blur. Okay, so you cannot pinpoint it precisely. So it helps to slow down. That's the reason why you're instructed to slow down. Okay, so slow down, and then observe carefully, note carefully, precisely. Okay, there's no point if you slow down but you don't note carefully. Okay, so purpose of slowing down is so that you can note carefully, precisely, clearly. Okay? But not too slow. Okay? Sometimes yogis move too slow when the mind is not ready yet. Then you move too slow, you cannot see anything. Okay? So if you have very good samadhi, then you move very slowly. You can discern the moment to moment, appearing, disappearing. Okay? There's one yogi, she can take like 5 minutes, one step in a walking meditation. So whenever you look at her, the foot is always hanging. But she's noting, it's moving very, very slowly, but the mind is very sharp, precise, because samadhi is good. She can discern arising, disappearing very, very clearly. Okay? So, but you're not ready for that. Don't you go 5 minutes, you cannot see anything. Okay? So you must, so you adjust the speed accordingly. Okay? To a speed where you can discern the process clearly, the moment to moment process clearly. Okay? So, and then what we mentioned last time, the daily activities. Okay? You break down the complex activity into simpler activities. Okay? And then you focus on the noting of each simple activity, one at a time. Okay? Don't try to note too many activities, do too many activities all at once. Okay? Then the mind cannot follow up. Okay? Cannot keep up. Okay? And then it will not be clear. Okay? Now, to note precisely also means to note precisely in the present. Okay? So you must train the mind to come more and more precisely into the present moment. Okay? So the present moment, I mean right in the present moment, is the most precise that the mind can know. Okay? Because why do we want to note in the present? Because right in the present, the experience is freed from concepts. Okay? There's only pure nature, pure reality. Okay? So noting precisely in the present, it means that you note the object as soon as the object impinges on the sense door. Okay? You immediately note. Okay? So immediately rising occur, immediately you note. Okay? So if it's rising, the moment it's rising occur, immediately you note. Okay? So right in the present, the moment it arises, you note. At that time, the mind has no time yet to form any idea, any concepts about the object that has just arisen. Okay? So you note right there and then. Okay? The concept does not arise. Okay? You note there only pure nature is present. Okay? So you do not note it right there and then the mind out of habit will start to form ideas and concepts. Okay? Then it will not be pure nature anymore. Okay? So So to explain this to those of you who study Abhidhamma, so you talk about the thought processes, right? Chitta viti, okay? How the mind experience an object. So you talk about the sense door. There's the thought process consisting of the 17 mind moments, right? I mean 17 consciousness. Every time an object impinges on the ear or nose or tongue and so on. So when the mind experiences this object, there's 17 chitta, 17 consciousness arise and disappear one after another in a series just to experience that object. Okay, so that whole 17 thought moment is called one thought processes. That is at the sense doors. Okay, eye, ear, nose door, and so on. Okay, so at the mind door also there can be another thought process that arises, another series of consciousness. Okay, so let's say a sound. As soon as a sound impinges on the ear, so immediately that ear door thought process arises. Okay, to experience the sound that has arisen. Okay, so at that time, because it's so fast, even if you say 17 thought moments, it's just like this. Okay, so you say in a snap of in a blink of an eye, a snap of a finger, billions of chitta can arise and disappear. Okay, this is just 17. It's very very fast. Okay, so at that time, it's just pure sound. Okay, meaningless sound. The mind hasn't processed it yet. Okay, it's actually one sound at a time. Okay, so when it hits, the mind experience it there, and the ear door thought process. So it's just pure sound. Okay, the mind have no idea what it is. All it knows is a sound. Okay, the ear consciousness knows the sound. Okay, now immediately this thought process, this ear door thought process finish. Immediately that same object, that sound is reflected at the mind door. Okay, so after the ear door thought process finish, immediately the mind door thought process arise that experience the same object. Okay, so by then of course the object is in the past already. Okay, but it's in the immediate past. So the impression of the object is still the same. Okay, and so it's like a copy of the object is passed to the mind door, reflected at the mind door. Okay, exactly the same sound. Okay, but it's like a past object actually. Okay, but it's still pure sound. Okay, still not processed yet. Okay, now, so usually when you are not noting, after the first mind door thought process, okay, so first there's an ear door thought process, then immediately the mind door thought process, the first mind door thought process, it simply is like receiving the same copy of the object from the ear door. Okay, then if you are not noting, usually immediately after the first mind door thought process, a series of mind door thought process will arise one after another that will start to process this sound, to make sense of it. Okay, so usually it's like you hear one sound after another, right? So each sound is passed to the mind door. Okay, and then the mind door, when it first receive it, it's like just the still pure sound, but after from the second mind door thought process, it will take each sound and then like put it together. Then he start to form a string of sound. Okay, then he recognizes this word. Okay, and then he grabs the meaning. So ideas start to form, concepts start to form. Okay, the mind process, but it's very very fast. Okay, that's why as you are hearing these words from the Dhamma talk, immediately you grasp the meaning. Because you are not noting. You are noting right in the present moment. You don't understand what I'm talking. It's just one sound, another sound arising, disappearing. So, but you don't note, the mind will start to process. Okay, and form idea of a word, meaning of the word, and then the sentence, meaning of the sentence, and so on. Okay, so vipassana, we want to bring the mind precisely to the point where it's still pure nature. Okay, so because you want to bypass all the concepts, you have to bring the noting to the point where the minds still have not processed all this data, you can say. So where do you note? You have to note very very quickly. So as soon as it impinges, you must note. Okay, so usually at the first mind door thought process. Okay, so noting actually takes place from the mind door. Okay, it's on the mind door that you note. So from the first mind door thought process, if you're noting, it's fast. Immediately you note. So at that time, it's still pure nature, unprocessed yet. Okay, if you are slower, then a second mind door thought process is still not too late yet. Okay, so instead of letting the mind start to process, you start noting from the second mind door thought process. Okay, so it takes the object from the first mind door thought process. It's still pure nature. Okay, so but you don't note it right there and then the process of forming an idea, process of conceptualization begins. Then after that you start to note, then it's concept mixed with reality, not pure nature anymore. Okay, so that's why you might want to note pure nature. You must note precisely in the moment. The moment the object impinges, you must quickly note. Okay. That's why we note we train Buddhas to note precisely in the present. Okay, this is in the Badekarata Sutta. Okay? Atitanam vagameya napatikanke anagatam yadatitam pahinatam apatancha anagatam pachupanancha yodamo tata vipassati. Okay? So one must not run back to the past, okay, nor have expectation of the future. Okay, why? Because yadatitam pahinatam, what is past is left behind. That means no more. It's gone. Okay, already disappear. Okay, it's already in the past. Yeah, you want to note it. The nature is not clear because it's not present right now. Okay, you must recollect back. Okay, you recollect back, but if at that time when you were experiencing that object, you were not noting, when you recollect back, all you recollect is just concept. Okay, so it's not clear. Okay, the nature is not clear. Okay, it's past, it's gone. Okay, and then apatancha anagatam, the future is not here yet. It's not arrived yet. Okay, So you cannot know it clearly. It's not here yet. You think you can only speculate what will happen, right? That is also not, may or may not happen, right? So then pachupanancha yodamo tata tata vipassati, the presently arising object. Okay, that one. Tata tata vipassati, right there and then. You must you say vipassati. Vipassati is the verb for vipassana. Okay, so vipassana means clear discernment of the nature exactly as it is. So vipassati, and the object is presently arising. Then right there and then. Tata tata, right there, right then. Must discern its nature exactly as it is. Okay, so Buddha is giving vipassana instruction here. Okay, so they say Buddha did not teach vipassana meditation. There, vipassati, he's used the word. Okay, discern it clearly, right there and then. Okay, because right there and then, when it's arising, it's right there. Okay, so it's clear. Okay, it's right in front of your mental eye. Okay, you don't have to try to remember the past. You don't have to speculate about the future. It's right there in front. Okay. So here Buddha also says pachupana. Pachupana cha yodammo. Pachupana usually we translate as present moment. Okay, but actually what it means is a moment it arises. Okay, upana means arising. So pati upana, pachupana. Okay, so it means right there, right at the moment when it's arising. You have to note it. Okay, so that is the most precise in the present. Okay, the very moment the object arises. So the very moment the object impinges, that's when it arises. Immediately, note. Without hesitation, you must note. Okay? You wait, then the concept arises. Okay? But the present moment is a moving target, right? The moment it arises, it's gone, right? Then is the next moment, the next object, then also gone, then the next one gone. So it's a moving target. So therefore, as soon as it impinges, note. Then immediately it's finished. It's in the past already. Then so don't hold on to it. So you hold on to it, and you start to think, analyze, then the concept will arise. So once it's past, immediately move on to the next. Okay, and then the next, and the next, and the next. It's a moving target. You have to keep the mind constantly in the present, in the present, in the present, in each present. Okay, so it's like you're standing in the middle of a stream. So the water flowing towards you, water flowing away from you, and then there's the water immediately touching you. So you don't worry about the water flowing towards you. That's the future. You're not yet here. You don't worry about it. Okay? Even when it comes very near, not yet touch, also don't care. Okay? The water flowing away from you also, you don't pay attention to it. Okay? Even the one just immediately just flow away. Because that's in the past already. Okay? So you pay attention only to the water that's immediately touching. But the moment it touches, it starts to flow away. Then you forget about it. Okay, and you move on to the next one, next one, next one, next one. Okay, so noting must be like this, always in the present, in the present, in the present. Okay, that's why vipassana noting is very active. Okay, it's like the needle of the sewing machine, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, very very fast, but always only in that point. That present, that's the present. Okay, so the piece of cloth passing through is like the stream of object, one after another. Okay, the one coming towards is like the future. So the one directly below the needle is the present. And after that, going away is like the past. But the needle is always in the present. Okay, it's always just in the present, in the present, in the present. Okay, so the noting must be like that. Okay, so the mindfulness, therefore, must be very alert, very fast, agile, to keep noting one moment of experience after another, continuously. Okay, so it's like the sparks coming one after another, pop, 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 pop. So it's so fast. You have to be very precise but very fast. Catch. No. So noting must be precise. Means in the present moment, right in the present moment. Okay. Now, some may ask about what about object of the past and the future? Because you read the suttas, the Buddha also talk about object of the past and the future. Okay. So, in fact, that's the definition of aggregates. So aggregate means a group. So what is that group? So like materiality, Buddha says, yang kinci rupam atita nagata pacupanam ajatam wa bahidawa olarikam wa sukumam wa hinam wa manitam wa yam dure santikewa sabam rupam. That is the aggregate of materiality. That means whatever materiality, past, past, future, or present, okay? Internal or external, okay? Gross or subtle, hinam panita, inferior or superior, and then far or near. So 11 categories altogether. All this together is called aggregate of materiality. Okay. So then the question arises: if you present, you know, okay, but how to know the past and the future? Okay? No. And also, what about internal, external? Internal means within. Within your own, Buddha says, 1 fathom long body. Okay? But external means in another person, outside. How to know? Okay. Now, actually, you don't really know the past or the future, nor do you know the external aggregate. Okay. Not to say don't know, but you don't know directly. Okay. So what you do is first you note the present. Okay. And what is internal within yourself, and what is present right now. Okay. You note this continuously. Okay. Note until it's clear that every mental, physical nature that are noted in the present within this 1 fathom long body internally, they are impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay. So this is called Pachakanyana. Okay, that means Pachakanyana means direct experiential knowledge. Okay, that means you know it directly, you experience it directly within yourself, in the present moment. Okay. So first you must develop this direct experiential knowledge on the aggregate in the present occurring internally. Okay. So, and once this Pachakanyana or direct experiential knowledge is well established, is clear, you're confident, everything that are not impermanent, suffering, non-self. So once you have this confidence, then the spontaneously, at some point, spontaneously, the knowledge may arise. It's like intuition, arise. Not only the present, all the aggregates of the past, all the aggregates in the future, will also be impermanent, suffering, non-self. All the aggregate externally, in other person, also the same, impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay? So this is called anumananyana. Okay? Inferential knowledge. Okay? So it's inferred from the direct experiential knowledge. Okay? So when direct experiential knowledge is clear, then the inferential knowledge arises intuitively. You realize intuitively that the past also impermanent, suffering, non-self. Future will also be impermanent, suffering, non-self. Externally also impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay, it's an inference. Okay, this one is not by thinking; it arises spontaneously once the direct experiential knowledge is clear. Okay, so it's like if you want to know the taste of the ocean, so do you need to go and taste every single drop of water in the entire ocean? You don't need to, right? All you need to do is take sample from here and there in the ocean, and then taste it. Just a few drops will do. Then when every drop that you taste, you know, is salty, then you can infer the whole ocean must be salty, right? So you don't need to go and note everything in the past, everything coming in the future, because the past, you know how long is samsara. How to possibly note everything in the past, right? So it's impossible. Okay? Because Buddha says it's the samsara is without a discernible beginning. Okay? So it's also not possible to know everything in the future when it's not even here yet. Okay? Externally also there are so many aggregates, so impossible to note everything. Okay? But what is internally, what is present, you can note repeatedly, establish direct experiential knowledge. Okay? When this is clear, then the inferential knowledge will arise with regards to the object in the past, the future, and also the external object. Okay? Okay, so we stop here.